Imagine waking up one morning, running your fingers through your hair, and realizing far less comes out than usual. What if I told you hair loss is not a life sentence, and in many cases it's not even about your genes? Most people are focused on the wrong problem, and that's why nothing they try seems to work. Here's the truth. Hair loss usually isn't a hair problem. It's a body problem showing up on your scalp. Your hair follicles are incredibly sensitive to what's happening inside your body, especially your hormones, your nutrition, and your stress levels. When something is off internally, your hair is one of the first places to show it. Let's start with hormones because this is huge. One of the main drivers of hair thinning and balding is a hormone called DHT. DHT is a more aggressive form of testosterone, and when it's too high at the scalp level, it slowly shrinks the hair follicle. Over time, the hair grows thinner, weaker, and eventually stops growing altogether. But here's what most people don't realize. The issue is not testosterone itself. The real issue is insulin. When insulin is high, your body makes more DHT. High insulin comes from frequent eating, too many refined carbohydrates, sugars, and processed foods. This means every time you spike insulin all day long, you're quietly telling your body to produce more of the very hormone that attacks your hair follicles. This is why improving insulin sensitivity is one of the most powerful ways to protect an Eve. Regrow hair. One simple change that makes a massive difference is spacing your meals and cutting out constant snacking. When insulin drops, DHT activity also drops. This alone can slow hair loss dramatically and in many cases allow follicles to recover. Now let's talk about nutrition. Because hair is one of the most nutrient-demanding tissues in your body, hair follicles are among the fastest growing cells, and fast-growing cells need serious fuel. One of the most overlooked nutrients for hair is zinc. Zinc is critical for hair growth, immune function, and hormone balance. A deficiency can lead to shedding, thinning, and slow regrowth. Another key nutrient is iron, especially for women. Low iron doesn't always show up clearly in standard blood tests, but your hair follicles feel it immediately. Without enough iron, oxygen delivery drops and hair growth shuts down. Then there's biotin, which helps build keratin, the main structural protein in hair. But biotin alone won't fix hair loss if the deeper deficiencies aren't addressed. Protein is also essential, and not just a little. Hair is made primarily of protein, and if your diet is low in high-quality protein, your body will prioritize survival over hair growth every single time. This means hair thinning can happen even if calories are adequate. Another massive factor that almost no one connects to hair loss is chronic stress. Stress raises cortisol, and cortisol directly interferes with hair growth cycles. High cortisol pushes hair follicles into a resting phase. When enough follicles do this at the same time, you experience sudden shedding. This is why people often notice hair loss after emotional stress, illness, or long periods of poor sleep. Sleep itself is critical. During deep sleep, your body repairs tissue, balances hormones, and regenerates cells. If sleep is short or poor quality, hair growth slows down. This is not optional. You cannot out-supplement bad sleep. Let's talk about the scalp, because SE circulation matters. Hair follicles need blood flow to deliver nutrients and oxygen. Tight scalp muscles, chronic tension, and inflammation reduce circulation. This creates a low oxygen environment where hair simply cannot thrive. Gentle scalp massage, improving posture, and reducing inflammation through diet can significantly improve blood flow to the scalp over time. Inflammation is another hidden enemy. Chronic inflammation from processed foods, seed oils, sugar, and food sensitivities damages follicles and disrupts the hair growth cycle. When inflammation drops, follicles have a chance to re-enter a growth phase. Now here's something extremely important. Hair growth takes time. Hair grows in cycles, and reversing hair loss is not an overnight process. When you fix the internal problems, the first thing you'll notice is less shedding. Then the hair becomes thicker. Then new growth slowly appears. Most people quit right before the results show up. Another mistake people make is relying on topical products alone. Shampoos, oils, and serums may help the scalp environment, but they will never override hormonal imbalances, nutrient deficiencies, or insulin resistance. Real hair regrowth always starts from the inside. One of the most powerful strategies for hair recovery is combining insulin control, nutrient-dense foods, stress reduction, and proper sleep. When these align, the body shifts from survival mode into repair mode. And when that happens, hair follicles often wake back up. Your body wants to grow hair. Hair loss is a signal, not a failure. It's your body asking. NE for better inputs. When you give it the right signals, the scalp responds. So instead of chasing miracle products, start asking better questions. Are you spiking insulin all day? Are you getting enough zinc, iron, protein, and key nutrients? Are you sleeping deeply? Are you living in a constant state of stress? Are you inflamed? Fix those, and you're not just working on your hair, you're fixing your health at the root. And when your health improves, your hair usually follows. If you want your hair back, stop treating the symptom and start correcting the cause. That's how real reversal begins. Hair loss is driven more by hormones and insulin than by genetics. When insulin stays high from frequent eating and refined carbohydrates, DHT increases and slowly shrinks hair follicles. Lower NG insulin through better eating patterns helps protect follicles and allows hair to thicken again. Hair follicles are nutrient hungry, and deficiencies shut growth down fast. Low zinc, iron, protein, and key micronutrients weaken hair at the root and push follicles into a resting phase. Supplying the body with nutrient-dense foods restores the building blocks needed for strong, active hair growth. Stress, poor sleep, and inflammation silently stop hair regrowth. High cortisol disrupts the hair cycle, poor sleep blocks repair, and inflammation damages the scalp environment. Reducing stress, improving sleep quality, and calming inflammation allow dormant follicles to re-enter the growth phase naturally. Expand Keynote 1 for 2,000 words. Most people are told that hair loss is genetic, inevitable, and irreversible. But that idea leaves out a critical truth. Genes may load the gun, but lifestyle pulls the trigger. When it comes to hair loss, especially thinning at the crown or temples, the real driver is not your family history. It's what's happening with your hormones. And at the center of that hormonal chaos is insulin. Insulin is a hormone designed to control blood sugar. Every time you eat, especially carbohydrates or sugar, insulin rises to move glucose out of the blood and into the cells. That's normal. The problem begins when insulin is high all day long, day after day. This happens when you snack constantly, eat refined carbs, drink sweet beverages, or rely on processed foods. Over time, the body becomes resistant to insulin, meaning you need even more of it to do the same job. This condition is called insulin resistance, and it quietly disrupts nearly every system in the body, including your hair. Here's where it gets interesting. High insulin directly increases the production of a hormone called DHT. DHT is derived from testosterone, but it's far more potent. At the scalp level, DHT binds to receptors in the hair follicle and slowly shrinks it. Each hair follicle becomes shorter. Each new strand grows thinner. Eventually, the follicle becomes so small that it can no longer produce visible hair. This process doesn't happen overnight. It happens slowly, silently, and progressively, which is why people often don't notice until significant thinning has already occurred. The key thing to understand is that testosterone itself is not the enemy. Many people with high testosterone have great hair. The problem is the conversion of testosterone into DHT, and insulin is one of the strongest drivers of that conversion. So when insulin stays elevated, DHT stays elevated, and hair follicles remain under constant attack. This explains why hair loss often accelerates during periods of weight gain, poor diet, chronic stress, or metabolic problems. It also explains why hair loss is so commonly associated with conditions like prediabetes, diabetes, polycystic ovary syndrome, and metabolic syndrome. These conditions all share one thing in common: chronically high insulin. Another major effect of insulin resistance is inflammation. High insulin promotes inflammatory pathways throughout the body. Inflammation damages blood vessels, reduces circulation, and disrupts normal tissue repair. Hair follicles need a steady supply of oxygen and nutrients delivered through healthy blood flow. When inflammation is present, that delivery system breaks down. The follicle becomes stressed, undernourished, and unable to sustain growth. Insulin resistance also interferes with other hormones that protect hair. For example, it lowers sex hormone binding globulin, a protein that helps regulate free testosterone levels. When this protein drops, more testosterone is available to be converted into DHT. At the same time, insulin resistance disrupts thyroid function, and the thyroid plays a massive role in hair growth. Low or sluggish thyroid activity slows the hair growth cycle and increases shedding. So when someone says they've tried everything for hair loss and nothing works, it's often because they never addressed insulin. They might be using topical treatments, supplements, oils, or shampoos, but internally, the hormonal environment remains hostile to hair growth. Now here's the good news. Hair follicles are not dead in most cases. They're dormant. They're suppressed. When the internal environment changes, those follicles can wake back up. The first step is lowering insulin. One of the simplest and most effective ways to do this is to stop constant eating. Every time you eat, insulin rises. When you snack all day, insulin never gets a chance to come down. By spacing meals and reducing snacking, insulin levels drop, giving your body time to reset. This alone can significantly reduce DHT activity at the scalp. Next comes food quality, refi. Net carbohydrates like white bread, pasta, pastries, sugary cereals, and sweets spike insulin faster and higher than almost anything else. Liquid sugars are even worse. When these foods are reduced or eliminated, insulin demand drops dramatically. Replacing them with whole foods, especially non-starchy vegetables and healthy fats, stabilizes blood sugar and insulin. Healthy fats are especially important because they do not spike insulin and they support hormone production. Your body needs fats to build hormones properly. When fat intake is too low, hormone balance suffers and hair growth can decline. Protein also plays a role here. Adequate protein helps stabilize blood sugar, reduces cravings, and supports lean muscle mass, which improves insulin sensitivity. When insulin sensitivity, improves, the body needs less insulin to manage blood sugar, which reduces DHT pressure on hair follicles. Another powerful factor is meal timing. Eating late at night keeps insulin elevated when the body should be in repair mode. During sleep, insulin should be low so growth hormone can rise. Growth hormone supports tissue repair, including hair follicles. Late night eating blocks this process. Finishing meals earlier allows insulin to fall and repair hormones to do their job. Stress management is also critical because stress hormones worsen insulin resistance. Cortisol raises blood sugar, which forces insulin higher. Chronic stress creates a constant loop of elevated cortisol and insulin, further fueling hair loss. Reducing stress doesn't just help your mind, it directly improves hormone, nail balance, and hair health. Exercise improves insulin sensitivity as well. When muscles become more efficient at using glucose, insulin levels drop. Even simple daily movement can make a difference. Resistance training is especially effective because muscle tissue acts as a sink for glucose, reducing the need for insulin. Another overlooked piece is fatty liver. Excess insulin promotes fat store. Age in the liver, which worsens insulin resistance. A sluggish liver also struggles to clear excess hormones from the body, including DHT. Improving liver health through better diet and reduced sugar intake helps normalize hormone levels and protects hair follicles. As insulin comes down, something powerful happens. DHT production decreases, inflammation drops, blood flow improves, thyroid function stabilizes. Hair follicles move out of survival mode and back into growth mode. The first sign is usually reduced shedding. Then the hair shaft thickens. Over time, new growth may appear in areas that were thinning. This process takes patience. Hair grows slowly, and follicles need time to recover. Many people give up too early because they expect instant results. But the internal changes happen first. The visible changes come later. The biggest mistake is treating hair loss as a surface problem. It's not. It's a metabolic signal. It's your body saying something is off with your hormones and blood sugar control. When you correct that imbalance, you're not just improving your hair, you're improving your overall health. This is why focusing on insulin is so powerful. It doesn't just help one symptom. It addresses the root cause. Lower insulin means lower DHT. Lower DHT means less follicle shrinkage. And less follicle shrinkage means your hair finally has a chance to grow again. Hair loss is not random. It follows predictable biological rules. When insulin is high, hair suffers. When insulin is controlled, hair often recovers. That's not theory, that's physiology. So if you NT to reverse hair loss, stop fighting your genetics and start fixing your metabolism. Because when insulin is no longer driving the process, your hair follicles are no longer under attack. And that's where real, lasting regrowth begins. Hair follicles are some of the most metabolically active structures in the entire body. They are constantly growing, dividing, and rebuilding. Because of that, EY are extremely sensitive to nutrient shortages. When nutrients are abundant, hair grows thick and strong. When nutrients are missing, hair growth is one of the first things the body shuts down. This is not because hair is unimportant, but because your body always prioritizes survival over appearance. Most people experiencing hair loss are not lacking calories. They are lacking nutrition. You can eat all day and still be deficient in critical nutrients that hair follicles depend on. This is why hair loss is so common, even in people who appear to eat enough. One of the most important minerals for hair growth is zinc. Zinc is involved in hundreds of enzymatic reactions, many of which directly affect hair follicle function. Zinc helps regulate oil glands around hair follicles, supports immune balance in the scalp, and plays a key role in protein synthesis. Without adequate zinc, hair becomes thin, brittle, and prone to shedding. Zinc deficiency also increases inflammation and worsens hormonal imbalance, which further accelerates hair loss. What makes zinc deficiency tricky is that stress, poor digestion, and high insulin all increase zinc loss. So even if your intake is moderate, your body may still be functionally deficient. People under chronic stress burn through zinc rapidly. Digestive issues reduce absorption, and diets high in refined foods often lack bioavailable zinc altogether. Iron is another critical nutrient, especially for women, but also for men. Iron delivers oxygen to tissues, including the hair follicle. Hair growth requires energy, and energy requires oxygen. When iron is low, the body reduces non-essential energy demands and hair growth slows or stops. Shedding increases because follicles enter a resting phase early, than they should. Many people assume their iron is fine because their blood test falls within the normal range, but hair follicles often require higher levels than what is considered minimally acceptable. Ferritin, which is stored iron, is especially important. Low ferritin is strongly associated with hair loss, even when hemoglobin looks normal. Protein is another area where many people fall short without realizing it. Hair is made primarily of keratin, a protein structure. If protein intake is inefficient or poorly absorbed, the body simply doesn't have the raw material to build hair. In this situation, hair becomes thinner, grows more slowly, and sheds more easily. What's important to understand is that protein quality matters as much as quantity. Hair follicles need complete proteins with all essential amino acids. If protein intake is inconsistent or low quality, hair growth suffers. Then, if calories are high, biotin is often marketed as the miracle nutrient for hair, but it's only one piece of a much larger puzzle. Biotin helps build keratin and supports fatty acid metabolism. A true biotin deficiency can cause hair thinning and brittle hair. However, biotin alone will not fix hair loss if zinc, iron, protein, or other nutrients are missing. In fact, focusing only on biotin F10 leads people to ignore the deeper deficiencies that are actually driving the problem. Vitamin D is another major player that's often overlooked. Vitamin D acts more like a hormone than a vitamin, and hair follicles have vitamin D receptors. Low vitamin D has been linked to hair thinning and poor follicle cycling. Without enough vitamin D, follicles may fail to re-enter the growth phase after shedding. This can lead to gradual thinning over time. Vitamin D deficiency is extremely common, especially in people who spend little time in the sun or have absorption issues. When vitamin D is low, immune regulation in the scalp also suffers, which can increase inflammation and disrupt hair growth. The B vitamins as a group are also essential. They support energy production, nerve function, and cell division. Hair follicles divide rapidly, so they require a steady supply of B vitamins. Deficiencies can lead to dull, weak hair and increased shedding. These deficiencies are more common in people with digestive problems, chronic stress, or highly processed diets. Magnesium plays an indirect but powerful role as well. Magnesium supports insulin sensitivity, reduces stress hormones, and ELPs regulate inflammation. Since insulin resistance and stress are major drivers of hair loss, magnesium deficiency can worsen the entire process. Low magnesium also impairs protein synthesis and nutrient utilization, meaning even if nutrients are present, the body may not use them efficiently. Another overlooked factor is digestion. You can eat the perfect diet, but if your digestion is weak, hair follicles still won't get what they need. Low stomach acid, gut inflammation, and imbalanced gut bacteria all reduce nutrient absorption. Hair loss is often one of the first visible signs of digestive dysfunction. Poor digestion leads to deficiencies in zinc, iron, protein, and B vitamins. It also increases inflammation, which further disrupts hair growth. This is why addressing gut health is often essential for reversing hair loss. Inflammation deserves special attention because it creates a hostile environment for hair follicles. Chronic inflammation damages tissue, reduces circulation, and interferes with normal growth cycles. Many modern diets are highly inflammatory, filled with refined carbohydrates, sugars, and processed oils. These foods don't just lack nutrients, they actively block hair growth by increasing inflammation and oxidative stress. When inflammation is high, the immune system can even begin to attack hair follicles, disrupting growth and increasing shedding. Reducing inflammatory foods and increasing nutrient-dense, whole foods allows the scalp environment to normalize. Another issue is mineral imbalance. Nutrients do not work in isolation. Too much of one can interfere with another. For example, excess iron without adequate copper can cause problems. High calcium intake can interfere with magnesium absorption. This is why balanced nutrition from whole foods is far more effective than random supplementation. Hair follicles thrive when the body is in a nourished state. This means adequate calories, sufficient protein, healthy fats, and a wide range of vitamins and minerals. Starvation diets, extreme calorie restriction, or fear of fat all send a strong signal to the body to shut down hair growth. Healthy fats are especially important because they support hormone production and reduce inflammation. Hair follicles rely on a stable hormonal environment. When fat intake is too low, hormone balance suffers, and hair becomes fragile and thin. Another critical nutrient is iodine, which supports thyroid function. The thyroid regulates the speed of hair growth. When thyroid activity is low, hair grows slowly and sheds easily. Even mild thyroid dysfunction can significantly affect hair quality. Iodine deficiency combined with selenium imbalance can impair thyroid hormone production and indirectly contribute to hair loss. Selenium itself is important in small amounts. It supports antioxidant systems and thyroid hormone conversion. Both deficiency and excess can affect hair, which again highlights the importance of balance rather than extremes. Hydration also plays a role that is often underestimated. Dehydration reduces circulation and nutrient delivery. Hair follicles need a well-hydrated environment to function optimally. Mild dehydration can worsen dryness, brittleness, and shedding. What's important to understand is that hair loss from nutrient deficiency does not happen overnight. It develops slowly as deficiencies accumulate. Likewise, recovery takes time. When nutrients are restored, the body first stabilizes shedding, then hair quality improves, then growth gradually increases. Many people get discouraged because they don't see immediate results, but hair follicles operate on long cycles. The internal repair happens first. Visible improvement comes later. Another mistake is focusing only on supplements while ignoring food quality. Supplements can help correct deficiencies, but they cannot replace a nutrient-dense diet. Whole foods provide cofactors that improve absorption and utilization. Hair follicles respond best when nutrition comes from real food. When the body receives consistent, high-quality nutrition, something powerful happens. Stress hormones decrease, inflammation drops, insulin sensitivity improves, hormones stabilize, and hair follicles sense that the environment is safe for growth again. Hair loss is not a random event. It is a signal that the body is lacking something essential. When you listen to that signal and correct the deficiency, the body responds. So if you want to reverse hair loss, stop asking what product to apply to your scalp and start asking what your body is missing, because hair doesn't fail on its own. It fails when the internal supply chain breaks down. Restore the nutrients, improve absorption, reduce inflammation, and support digestion. When the foundation is rebuilt, hair growth becomes a natural outcome, not a struggle. This is why nutrition is not optional for hair regrowth. It is the root. When the root is nourished, the hair takes care of itself. Hair loss is often blamed on age, hormones, or genetics, but one of the most underestimated causes is the way modern life keeps the body locked in a constant stress state. Stress, poor sleep, and chronic inflammation work together to quietly shut down hair growth even when hormones and nutrition are addressed. If the body does not feel safe enough to repair, hair follicles will not grow, no matter what supplements or products you use. Stress is not just a mental experience. It is a powerful biological signal. When you are under stress, your body releases cortisol and adrenaline. These hormones are designed for short-term survival, not long-term health. In an emergency, your body diverts energy away from growth and repair and redirects it toward immediate survival. Hair growth is one of the first processes to be shut down. When cortisol stays high for weeks or months, it disrupts the normal hair growth cycle. Hair grows in phases. There is a growth phase, a transition phase, and a resting phase. Chronic stress pushes a large number of hair follicles prematurely into the resting phase. When this happens, shedding increases dramatically. People often notice clumps of hair falling out during brushing or showering, especially after prolonged emotional stress, illness, or exhaustion. High cortisol also interferes with other hormones that protect hair. It lowers thyroid hormone activity, which slows hair growth. It reduces progesterone and increases androgen activity, which can worsen thinning. It also raises blood sugar, which increases insulin and indirectly boosts DHT. This means stress does not just affect hair directly, it amplifies every other hair loss pathway. Sleep is the body's primary repair window. During deep sleep, the body releases growth hormone, balances cortisol, and regenerates tissues. Hair follicles depend on this nightly repair cycle. When sleep is short, fragmented, or inconsistent, repair is incomplete. Over time, this creates a cumulative deficit that shows up as thinning hair, increased shedding, and slow regrowth. One night of poor sleep is not the problem. The issue is chronic sleep deprivation. Going to bed late, scrolling on screens at night, eating late meals, and irregular sleep schedules all disrupt the body's circadian rhythm. When the circadian rhythm is off, cortisol remains elevated at night when it should be low. This blocks growth hormone release and keeps the body in a stress state. Another overlooked aspect of sleep is breathing. Poor sleep breathing, such as mouth breathing or frequent nighttime awakenings, reduces oxygen delivery. Hair follicles require oxygen for energy production. Chronic low oxygen during sleep can weaken follicles over time and contribute to shedding. Inflammation is the third major piece of this puzzle. Inflammation is the body's response to irritation or injury. Short-term inflammation is helpful. Chronic inflammation is destructive. Modern diets, environmental stressors, poor sleep, and constant psychological stress keep inflammation elevated at low levels all the time. When inflammation is present, blood vessels constrict, circulation decreases, and tissues receive fewer nutrients. Hair follicles become inflamed, irritated, and unable to maintain a healthy growth cycle. Inflammatory chemicals also disrupt signaling pathways that tell hair follicles when to grow and when to rest. Inflammation at the scalp level can create an environment that is hostile to hair growth. This does not always show up as redness or pain. Often it is silent. The follicle simply weakens and sheds hair earlier than it should. One major source of chronic inflammation is diet, highly processed foods, refined carbohydrates, sugars, and industrial seed oils promote inflammatory pathways. These foods also increase oxidative stress, which damages cells, including hair follicle cells. When oxidative stress is high, hair follicles age faster and lose their ability to regenerate. Another contributor is gut inflammation. The gut and the immune system are closely connected. When the gut is inflamed or imbalanced, inflammatory signals spread throughout the body. This systemic inflammation affects the scalp and hair follicles. Many people with hair loss also have digestive issues, bloating, or food sensitivities, even if they don't connect them to their hair. Environmental stressors also play a role. Poor air quality, toxins, and chemical exposures increase the body's stress load. The liver must work harder to detoxify, which increases oxidative stress and inflammation. When the body is overwhelmed, hair growth becomes a low priority. Now here's the critical insight. Hair follicles respond to the overall state of the nervous system. When the nervous system is in fight or flight mode, growth shuts down. When the nervous system shifts into rest and repair mode, growth becomes possible. This shift is not optional. It is essential. One of the most powerful ways to reduce stress hormones is through consistent routines. Regular sleep times, regular meal times, and predictable daily rhythms signal safety to the body. When the body feels safe, cortisol drops. Breathing also has a direct effect on the nervous system. Slow, controlled breathing activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which lowers cortisol and improves circuit. Over time, this shift creates a more favorable environment for hair growth. Physical activity helps as well, but only in the right amount. Moderate exercise improves circulation, reduces stress, and enhances insulin sensitivity. Excessive, intense exercise without adequate recovery can increase cortisol and worsen hair loss. Balance is key. Social connection and emotional support are important. Isolation and unresolved emotional stress keep cortisol elevated. The body does not distinguish between physical and emotional stress. Both trigger the same hormonal response. When emotional stress is addressed, hair growth often improves. Sleep quality deserves special focus. Creating a dark, quiet sleep environment, limiting screens before bed, and winding down in the evening all improve sleep depth. When sleep improves, growth hormone increases, cortisol decreases, and hair follicles receive the signal to grow. Reducing inflammation requires removing the sources first. Eliminating inflammatory foods, reducing sugar intake, and avoiding highly processed oils can dramatically lower inflammatory burden. Replacing these with whole foods, healthy fats, and nutrient-dense meals supports repair. Supporting the body's antioxidant systems is also important. Antioxidants neutralize oxidative stress and protect hair follicle cells from damage. When oxidative stress decreases, SES follicles maintain their ability to regenerate. Another important factor is scalp tension. Chronic stress often causes muscle tension in the jaw, neck, and scalp. This tension reduces blood flow. Over time, reduced circulation deprives follicles of nutrients and oxygen. Relaxing these muscles improves blood flow and supports growth. Hydration and electrolyte balance also influence stress response. Dehydration raises cortisol and reduces circulation. Adequate fluids and minerals help maintain nervous system stability. One of the most frustrating things about stress-related hair loss is that it often appears delayed. The stressful event may have occurred months earlier. This delay confuses people and makes it hard to identify the cause. Understanding this timeline is important so you don't panic or give up when shedding occurs. Recovery follows a similar delay. When stress is reduced, hair follicles slowly return to the growth phase. Shedding decreases first, then hair quality improves, then regrowth becomes visible. This process can take months, but it is a sign of healing, not failure. Another common mistake is trying to fix hair loss while keeping the same stressful lifestyle. Supplements and products cannot override chronic stress and sleep deprivation. Hair growth requires a calm internal environment. This is why relaxation is not a luxury. It is a biological requirement for hair growth. The body must feel safe enough to invest energy in repair. When stress is managed, sleep improves, and inflammation drops, something remarkable happens. The body shifts from breakdown to regeneration. Hormones balance, circulation improves, immune signals normalize, and hair follicles respond. Hair loss in this context is not permanent damage, it is a protective response. When the threat is removed, growth resumes. If you want to reverse hair loss, don't just ask what to add. Ask what to remove. Remove chronic stress. Remove poor sleep habits. Remove inflammatory inputs. Then support the body with calm, consistency, and recovery. Your hair is listening to your nervous system. When the message is survival, hair sheds. When the message is safety, hair grows. This is why true hair regrowth is not just about hormones or nutrients. It is about restoring balance to the entire system. When that balance returns, hair growth becomes a natural expression of health again.